this is your problem. Not in a harsh way, not in a trying to call you out way, but if you've ever stopped yourself from doing something because of what someone else might think, that's the problem. And I know it, because it used to be mine too. There's this thing people do, and I've done it. I still do it sometimes, where you have an idea, or a goal, or something you want to try. And instead of actually doing it, you spend all your energy imagining what other people are going to say about it. You don't even get to the doing part. You're already in the reaction. You're already rehearsing the criticism. And that loop, that overthinking, that imagining every possible way someone could judge you, it keeps you exactly where you are. It keeps you still. Not because you can't move, but because you've already convinced yourself it's safer not to. That's the real cost of it. Not embarrassment, not failure. It's the version of yourself that never gets started. You end up carrying around all these things you want to do. These things you genuinely want to try, and you just don't because of other people. People who probably aren't even paying that much attention. You know this is the truth. If you're completely honest with yourself, you know this is reality. As much as you want to avoid it, you know it's true. And I think for most people, it starts with something simple. Something physical, usually. Like, you want to go to the gym, but you're worried about how you look. You're not where you want to be yet. Maybe your skin's been bad lately. Maybe you've put on some weight. Maybe you just feel off in your own body, or you don't like the way your clothes are looking anymore. And the idea of other people looking at you while you're trying to work on it feels like too much. Or you want to post something online, a photo, a video, or an idea you've had. But then you look at yourself and you think, not yet. When I look better, or when I'm more confident, when I've sorted myself out a bit more. I understand that. I'm not going to stand here and tell you those feelings aren't real. They are. They're very real. But they're also the exact thing that keeps you waiting indefinitely for a version of yourself that might never feel ready enough. Because here's the thing. That bar keeps moving. The closer you get to it, the further away it feels. You'll never feel completely ready. That's not a flaw. That's just how it works. And then there's something like this. Starting a YouTube channel, or a podcast, or a blog, or even just posting your thoughts somewhere. You have the idea. You know exactly what you want to say. You actually believe it could be good. But then the question starts. What will people say? What if someone I know sees it and thinks it's embarrassing and they show everyone? Or what if I say something wrong? What if nobody watches and that somehow proves something bad about me? What if I put myself out there, actually out there, and people laugh? Those questions feel very reasonable. They feel like caution. They feel like you're just being realistic. But they're not caution. They're fear dressed up as logic. And the difference matters because caution can be worked through. Fear tends to just keep you stuck. You don't actually know what people will say. You don't know if it will be good or bad or neither. You just know that something about it scares you. And you're using the imagined reaction of other people as a reason to not find out. When I started this channel, I sort of had that. All of it, actually. I didn't know if anyone would watch. I didn't know how people would react. People who know me, people who don't. I wasn't sure if I was going to say something that came out wrong, or if I'd seem like I was trying too hard, or if this would just quietly go nowhere and I'd feel stupid for even trying. That was all in my head before I posted anything. And I'm still not standing here telling you I've got it figured out. This is early, even for me. I'm still working out what that is supposed to be. But the thing that I kept coming back to was I can either keep sitting on this or I can just start. Not because I felt ready, but because I was tired of not having started already. That's a different kind of motivation. It's not confidence. It's being more done with waiting than you are afraid of beginning. Here's what I've come to understand about it, though. Most people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. That sounds blunt, but it actually it's kind of freeing once it settles in. Everyone is dealing with their own version of this, their own insecurities, their own fears. Everybody looks in the mirror. Everybody is feeling their own doubts. But the person you're afraid of judging you is probably worried about the exact same thing from someone else. We're all kind of doing that. The judgment you're afraid of is mostly imaginary. Not all of it, but most of it. You've constructed this audience in your head, this panel of people who are watching and waiting for you to slip up, and they don't really exist in that way. The fear isn't coming from out there. It's internal. It lives within you. And that's actually the more useful thing to know. Because you can't change what other people think, but you can start to understand what's happening in your own head. It's your perception of judgment that stops you, not the judgment itself. You're scared of a reaction you've already written for them. So what do you actually do with that? I don't think you just decide to stop caring. That's not really how it works. You don't flip a switch and suddenly become someone who doesn't feel self-conscious. I don't think that's the goal anyway. I think the shift is smaller than that. It's realizing you don't need anyone's approval. You need your own resolve to take one step and then the next. Because here's what actually does work. Action reduces fear. Not confidence leading to action. Action leading to something that looks a bit like confidence, eventually, over time. You do the uncomfortable thing, it goes away. Or it doesn't go perfectly, but it doesn't kill you either. And the next time, the fear is a fraction smaller. You don't think your way out of it. You move your way through it. The approval you're waiting for it's not coming first. You have to go first. And that's uncomfortable. But the only way this actually works. One of the things I keep coming back to is this idea of not building your life on what other people think of you. Because that's a foundation that shifts constantly. It changes depending on who's in the room. What they're feeling that day, how the algorithm is performing. If your sense of whether you should be doing something depends entirely on how it lands with other people, you'll always be a little lost. I'm still learning how to hold on to something more solid than that. Something that doesn't move every time someone has an opinion. That's part of why this channel exists, honestly. It's part of what I'm working through. I'm not saying I've found a perfect answer. I'm saying I'd rather be building something on a foundation that actually holds. If you're waiting to feel confident before you start, I want you to hear this clearly. You're going to wait for a very long time. Confidence isn't what gets you started. It's what builds you up after you've started. After you've done the uncomfortable thing a few times and realised that the consequences were survivable. You only have one life. You have to act whilst you're uncomfortable. That's not an inspirational line. That's just how it works. Whatever it is that you've been sitting on, the channel, the business, the conversation you need to have, the thing you keep almost doing, the fear of what people will think is not a good enough reason to leave it undone. It's not protecting you. It's just keeping you still. You can be scared and do it anyway. In fact, that's kind of the only option that leads anywhere. I'm still working on this. I don't think this is the kind of thing you sort out once and then it's done. It comes back in different situations and different people and different stakes. And you just keep choosing as often as you can, not to let it stop you. That's the process. Not arriving somewhere clean. Just keeping going despite the noise. If this resonated with you, I'm glad. If you've been sitting on something, maybe this is a small nudge. Not because I told you to, but because some part of you already knows you're ready. Thanks a lot for watching.